Bam! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's show. Um, thank you very much for everybody that's in the chat that's watching, and for all the people that are going to catch this on the replay. And welcome to another episode of the Ominus Morning Show. Yes, and you didn't see that. That's correct. What you saw on your screen. It's the Ominous Morning Show. I'm not crazy. I do have a morning show, but last week and this week I've made a few adjustments to accommodate the guests that I'm having on. In these last two shows. So today we're going to have another show in this time slot, but then next week I'm going to go to my normal scheduled show time, which is at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So today is at this time. Next week it's going to be in the morning. So thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for tuning in. And yes, so today I have a very special guest, very special guest. I'm a big fan, so yeah, he as you've seen in the thumbnail, he is the creator of the Lucent. He is the three-time CG Ambassador Award winner, and he's just an all-around great person who has accepted to come on my show. So I'm really happy and excited about that. Hopefully we can jump into the creative process. I got a lot of questions to ask my guest. And before I bring him on, I'd like to say what's up to the people in the chat. AC, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thank you very much for liking and for subbing. I appreciate that. Mr. My guest is hailing the chat. And Time Skills, what's going on? Nice to see you. I think this is the first time I catch you around these parts. And greetings from San Francisco. Wow. Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know, I'm reporting to you live from the third world. Yes, this is Peru, Lima, Peru. I'm in South America, kicking it and ready to enjoy the pleasure and the presence of my guest. So without further ado, let's bring on the great and talented Mr. Michael Bancroft. Please, a round of applause. Hey, hello.
That's how I want everyone to introduce me from now on. The great and talented, like I'm the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, man, it's nothing short of what to expect or what I've seen from you and your work. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan. I came across you and your channel and your work through Sean and Joe from Art and Stuff. I was
great guys.
Yeah, I followed. They were one of the first shows that I came across way back during the beginning of the pandemic, and yeah, I jumped onto your stuff and I saw what you were doing. I read about, I was exposed to your story little by little, and then when the book came, when I finally got my hands on the book and when I read it, I was 100% on the bandwagon. I was on the train, the hype train. And I was really happy with what I saw. It was one of the better books that I got from CG. No distance to anybody out there, because the books are all it's a wide variety of quality, but it was one of the better ones. And and I think you got the deserved accolades for it. And do you consider yourself a success in that term of would you consider yourself critically acclaimed in that sense? How do you see your product?
You always remember that. You always remember the times that someone said, "This is garbage." I did receive a review, a video review. Someone gave it an F. He spent 7 minutes just tearing it apart. But you remember that stuff. But every time you get someone who says that they really liked it, that kind of cancels all that out anyway. Yeah, I think overwhelmingly, at least the feedback I've received, and I've received quite a lot of it, has been positive. People are intrigued. They want to know more. So I really can't ask for much more of that. Is it a success? I guess it has to be, because when the day before I launched the first book, I spoke to my wife and we said, oh, look, if I can end up with 100 backers overall, I'll be happy. And I think we got that in the first day. And then, ever since then, I think we counted up yesterday. It's about 1,500 orders that we've shipped out for the first book. So yeah, I think that qualifies as a success for me.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Because it's really difficult to get those kinds of numbers, and and it's just a testament to the work that you put in, because you stream frequently, you stream often, and your shows are super entertaining. To what would you owe the success of the book? What things do you consider like have been fundamental to the success
I think
of?
it's a lot of things. Right place, right time for me personally. So I didn't just jump in when I wasn't ready, because obviously when the whole ComicsGate thing happened, sort of started happening in 2017, 2018, I was working on the book as a webtoon. I could have just, I don't know, slapped together a cover and tried to launch back then, and that would have been an absolute disaster because things weren't ready for me. I've been working on this book a really long time. It's not something that I've just slapped together. A story like this has to be properly planned out, and I spent a long time learning how to actually write a story. I spent a long time learning how to draw it. I spend more time learning how to color it. And I think all these things are the sorts of things that people come back to me and say, I really like that. I really appreciate that about the story. I love the coloring. I really like the dialogue, or even I just sent out the Kickstarter. People starting to get their Kickstarter packages. Did my first Kickstarter the other month, and people are saying, "Wow, it's really professional. The presentation and the quality and everything." And that's something that I'd learnt over years of doing an Etsy store and having my own businesses. So it's a whole bunch of things I think have come together to make the word of mouth around the book really work.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because I mean, it's for the small time creators that I see come on board the CG. I always see a reference to Rob Arnold's document that he has where it tells you like the step by step process. And and then when I think about you and him and other creators that have gotten the numbers that you guys have, it seems like you guys have ticked off every single one of those boxes, and you can see the results. In the numbers. You've had your channel for a long time, and so you've mentioned you've done Kickstarter, you've done all these other things, and so I mean, all that, as you mentioned, comes together in a very, very nice way, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Rob and I aren't geniuses. We just decided, let's do a show where we take a look around and see what's been working and how the landscape is and everything. And Rob's sick at the moment, but for about 2 years we've been doing that. And
it's a lot of trial and error, I would say also.
Exactly, trial and error. I mean, when people started really trying to utilize YouTube to sell crowdfunded comics, it was just sort of, I guess, whatever happened. And people learned that, oh, look, if you get onto ComicsGate Presents, you have a high likelihood of getting funded. So people put 2 and 2 together and said, so it seems like if you have a channel with a big audience, that's a good way to inspire people to back books. All right, well, let's try that. That's the whole, grab an oar, build your audience path. So, do that. And then we looked at other people who were maybe, they didn't have access to the big audience. So what were they doing? And they started doing all sorts of things. You mentioned Joe Sontag earlier. Joe built hype, and he has a channel, but it's not a massive channel. He's got 1,000, 2,000 subs. He built hype for Reaper Destroyer like no one else had done without a massive channel.
And that was nice. I remember that.
And he launched to over 20,000 on the first day for a first-time creator, and that to me was like, that's brilliant. So I copied a lot of what he did. You just pick up what works, cast aside what doesn't. People will try new things. Some of them will land, some of them won't, and we just keep moving forward like that. That's been my approach the whole time.
Awesome stuff. And how you said you've been working on this story for a long time. How long have you been working on the story?
The original premise for the story I've always had, probably going back to when I was a kid, and I wanted to write stories, but I didn't know how or whatever. I've had that idea, and it's just been percolating in my head. When The Matrix came out, I was like, I think I know how that story could work. And I was really inspired by The Matrix. It's not like I wanted to tell the Matrix story. I was just inspired by it, and I was like, "What? Okay, again, what could I kind of learn from that movie? What do I not want to do from that movie?" And then that started. So that now I started thinking like, how to actually do this as a story. So that was going all the way back 20 plus years. I didn't actually start to sit down and write it until probably about 2010. And it's good that I started that early because what I wrote originally was terrible. But that's good. I learned how to write over a period of about 5 years of through, again, trial and error. I was also reading a lot of books on what a story is and all that list of stuff. And then
how to write stories. How to write stories in general or comic stories?
Stories. Yeah. So I didn't at that point. I wasn't writing a comic. I'd sort of fallen out of comics by that point. I'd buy occasional here and there. I'd buy some to collect. I'd always read and collected Spider-Man comics, so I was doing that on the side. But I mean, actually making a comic myself, I knew how much work that would be. But eventually, I realized I couldn't get the Lucent story to work the way I was writing it, whether it was a novel. I mean, I was just trying to get the story done, and I found French, bande dessinée albums, which are these big hardcover books. And
I saw some of the pics that Mel posted. Yeah, those books are really beautiful looking.
Yeah, really, like these things.
Yeah.
And I saw these and I was like, oh my goodness, that's it. That's what the Lucent is. Yeah, look how nice and big they are, hardcover.
Hold on.
Hardcover. Let me hold on a sec. This is probably the one that's closer to it, if I can.
I swear I know what I'm doing, guys.
You get there. You get there. That's good enough. That's good enough. And I was just like, oh, I can, instead of writing all these paragraphs of prose, I could just draw these. But can I draw it? And, I've been sort of working on T-shirts and other art and stuff like that. So it's like, sure, why not? Let's try. That was about 2014, 2015. And I haven't stopped since.
Crazy. Awesome. And hold on, let me just say hello to the people that just jumped onto the chat. Timescale says Bancroft rocks. Yeah, I agree. It says
thank you.
This is my first time. Just saw Bancroft tweet the link. I've subscribed. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, usually the idea is that the host helps out the guest, but I think this is like the inverted way because I think I'm going to get.
I just recorded an interview with Timescales, which I think should be coming out soon. I'm going to send him some stuff, but
sweet. Thank you. And Odin is here. What's going on, Odin? What's going on?
Hello.
Appreciate you coming by. Yeah, congratulations, Odin, on closing out Unconditional Shove. It's a really good book, and now they're quickly bouncing on to the next one, Kill Them Dead, with Broken Compass and good stuff. And he says Lucent has been a super compelling book. Yeah, Skunk Artworks is killing it. I saw that cover that he did recently. Great stuff, man. Really good use of blacks, man. I'm really inspired by his stuff. Has been a super compelling book thus far. Definitely looking forward to Painted Death. Yeah. Definitely, I'm on the same trail right there. And then Dean, what's going on, Dean? Good morning, friends. Good morning. Yes, it's morning over there where you're at? No, right?
Yeah, it's 10:15.
All right, excellent. So the morning show does apply to the people in Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, awesome stuff. And then I got Buddha there. What's up, Buddha? Easy on the Buddha. What's up, Buddha? Best ending is and I got Eric the Guapo. What's up, Eric? What's going on, man? Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. This guy.
I don't know if he's talking about me or you.
Yeah, I have no idea. And then Dean says, if the Lucent ends with, and it was all a dream, I swear. I
wouldn't do that to you.
I was wondering about the story. Like, you got Waking Dream, then you got Painted Death, and I think I heard you mention that you have four books, I think, in total. Is that what you have planned out for the Lucent?
5 books. And the last 3 are unnamed, but I do have extra books I'll be doing in between.
Yeah, is
So,
that
I'm working
including
with
Fractured Mind?
Fractured Mind is the book I'm working on right now with Rod Looper, which is a one-shot sort of action story
Okay.
set in the Lucent world.
Would that be one of those extra books that you mentioned?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So they'll come out between my main campaigns, so that I have, something to crowdfund, so you're not making everyone wait for me. I've got another one that I'm writing after that, which is sort of set in the Viking times. Again, all Lucent.
Oh wow.
Called Tempest Born. I'm not really talking about that one much because that's just in the writing stage.
Tempest
But
Born.
yeah.
Oh, I got an exclusive.
And
Nice.
yeah. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but it's not something I really
Nice.
shout out about because it's really just in the scripting stage at the moment. But yeah. So 5 books overall. This will be the longest one, almost definitely. I don't know if I'll
90
do another
pages.
100-page book. So it's because it's such a massive undertaking. But I think it's needed. I think at this point in the story, it's sort of needed. People need something to really sink their teeth into
Yeah, because there's
and
a lot of
really get a
questions that
handle
were
on it.
left. Yeah, and then
Yeah, and those questions will continue. Some of them you'll get better answers. At least you'll be able to kind of tick off things what isn't happening. But the mystery will continue. You the audience, will be learning things at the pace of Ella learning things. That's how these sorts of stories work. So as she dives deeper into the world of the Lucent, so will you, the reader. That's how it's going to
nice.
work.
So, considering that you mentioned that it was inspired by the Matrix, are we going to get like a Neo-esque type Ella at the end of the story? Like where he's got
Yeah,
he's in full
I've
control
sort
of
of
his powers?
hinted at that. Yeah, I sort of hinted at that by what I'm showing her off as in Fractured Mind. That library cover, which is the sort of giveaway cover that I'm giving away over the course of the campaign. That's sort of what that is. It's a little, vision of what the future might look like. But yes, definitely, that's sort of what it's heading towards. You could draw that analogy. Yeah.
And for example, when you're finished with these 5 books, what comes after that? Are you going to continue writing more stories with Ella in it, or are you going to like
If
dive into
people want
other?
more, and I can do more, the thought of me drawing more is terrifying. But look, who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
where I'll be at that point and what I'll want to do. But yeah, the story can continue. I will be laying in Easter eggs, for a possible continuation of the story as I go. But maybe it just ends there and I do other Lucent stories. But I don't really have any interest in doing anything other than Lucent stories. I'm kind of all in on this story.
Yeah.
It's all I really want to do. It's part of who I am now. It's part of my life. I carry it around with me everywhere I go.
Yeah,
At this
definitely.
point. So
That's awesome. And what is your writing process like? Do you write everything? Like, for example, you have these 5 books. Do you have them all written out, or do you write them a book at a time?
I have it all written out as one kind of
Gigantic
saga.
story.
Actually, it's even more than that. I have the entire history of the world as it pertains to the Lucent written out. That's sort of my Bible for the story, and that was how I was able to conceptualize the world and the story. That's the sort of world building phase. And what I've done is I've taken out, so in the present day we follow Ella on her journey from just much sort of a lot like Luke Skywalker as well. I make that comparison a lot. Luke Skywalker at the start of the first movie till the end of Return of the Jedi, he has his arc where he goes from being a farm boy to a Jedi Knight, and in the process sort of changes the whole empire. That's a lot. That's kind of the kind of story you should expect from this Lucent these Lucent books. So I had to have all that. I had to kind of build out. Well, what does the world look like? Because it does reach back into the past, and I have to have access to that stuff. So all that is all sort of storied out and plotted out and everything. the actual writing, you know, I have scenes that I've written and stuff like that in future books, but more than anything, it's really just the key moments, like what happens sort of scene to scene is there. And then when it comes time for me to write dialogue, I just sort of watch the scene in my head because I know what kind of happens. I watch it through, I play it through, and then it sounds weird to say this out loud, but I just sort of let the characters do what they're gonna do in my head, and I just kind of sit back and watch. That's really, it's like this weird psychological ego thing where it all. I've lived with these characters so much. I've already fleshed out all of their backgrounds. I know all their motivations. I know what they want. I know where they want to go. So that can just kind of happen inside my head, and then I write all that down, and that's how we start. And then, you know, I start plotting that out into pages, and eventually it turns into a comic.
Nice. So like, is there like an actual like script where you got like the dialogue, all that stuff written out before you start drawing it?
And that's all I have. I just have dialogue. I don't write out, you know, he's here and that's the sort of stuff. I take that dialogue and I start plotting out pages. And that's where I'll be able to see, because I need to make sure that, okay, the end of whatever happens at the end of this page has to encourage the reader to go to the next page, and then when that page turns, you know, you got all that sort of stuff. So the actual dialogue, writing, action, events, pictures, everything, it's all one thing together. It all works together. You can't just do one thing by itself. At least that's how I work anyway.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to take into consideration all that stuff. I recently finished a 10-page comic, and yeah, during the writing process, all I did was just write out the scene. Then I drew it, and I didn't really write any dialogue for it, but I can definitely tell, or at least I got the impression, like how those two things need to mesh well for the image to have any kind of impact at all on the reader. And I was wondering how that happens, because in your case, and also in my case, like you're the writer and the artist, so you just write, I'm assuming, what gives you some sort of indication of what you need to do on that page, and then
a little note,
a little
note.
From the
That's all I
point
need.
of view,
yeah. And it's funny because when I work with Rod, now I've got to actually do a proper script, because I have to write out panel by panel what I want to happen in the panel, and usually what's going to be said. Sometimes I don't do the dialogue. I'll just let Rod know that there will be some dialogue in there because I'm focused on something else. But yeah, it's a very different way to how I write the story for myself to make the art, or how I write it for Rod to make the art. It's a completely different process.
And in that case, when you're working with Rod, I'm assuming you take art direction and you tell him, like, or has there been like a lot of adjustments made from what he presents to what you have in your vision?
Rarely.
Okay.
I like the fact that he gives me stuff back that I hadn't thought about, and it doesn't quite, you know, look how I'd envisioned it, but he knows how to structure a full page. That's his genius. And, you know, he'll know, okay, this needs to be like, oh, right, maybe this is the close-up panel. Again, no, it should be close because you had that close-up there, or whatever. And, you know, occasionally, you know, there'll be a gesture is wrong or something, and we'll have to adjust that, you know. But other than that, no, I like just letting him run with it. I've seen other artists do thumbnails and everything for their so other writers do thumbnails for their artists. I'm not doing any of that. I will say, let's do a heroic shot, or let's do a top-down shot. But it's more purely just so that we can actually see what's going on in the scene, not so much cinematically. Rod already has a really intuitive sense of the kind of layouts that I like and the kind of panels that I like, so we work well together like that.
Nice. And you came across Rod from his previous work. Yeah, I think you mentioned.
I was introduced to Rod through John from Beyond, Black Tiger.
Beyond Time.
And then you know, I started following him, and I was looking for an artist who was doing something similar, who could do the kinds of things that I need, different to me, but has a similar kind of idea about what should be in the comics. And what I love is really interesting perspective, angles, that sort of stuff. Someone who knows how to do a really good background. The backgrounds are really important to my book. It's just part of the kind of DNA of the Lucent.
Yeah,
but
like
I also needed someone who could do what was that? Sorry.
Well, like the covers, for example, like this cover here, and then also, for example, that shot of Paris from the top. Yeah, very intricate.
Yeah. It's I'm trying to sell the idea that this is the world that we live in, but all this stuff is happening. We just are not aware of it. That to me is really important to the story working. And Rod gets that, but he can do action scenes like no one else. I also wanted to hire someone who could do things that I couldn't do as well as him. And he draws such great action scenes. He just really crushes it. So I couldn't be happy with how the pages are coming along.
Sweet. In Rod we trust.
Exactly.
And Timescale says Bancroft, aside from being talented, is also very generous in providing education socially. A really good guy. Yeah. That video that you did yesterday was really good, really insightful. I haven't really heard many people talk about the importance of CG from that perspective, because that's actually my number one reason for being in CG, is because there needs to be some kind of front to what's happening in society, because we have this invasion of these leftist ideals, and we need to have something to counter that. And that's my big primary reason.
Someone has to be vocal. Someone has to show others who are sort of just getting along to get along, going along to get along, keeping their head down, trying not to get cancelled, and trying to just, keeping their mouth shut. Okay, I understand that's what the position a lot of people are in. There has to be someone who's actually out there vocally showing, what? You can speak out against this stuff and you can stand against it and be normal. It's not all some crazy extremist, group. It's just normal people trying to make normal things, in our case, comic books, and do business and sell them. It's so the more kind of regular people see that, the less important, the less scary the whole Marxist invasion becomes. So I've had that on my mind for a while, and there's been a little bit of discussion going around lately about the culture war and what's it all for, and is this needed and everything. So I just felt like I needed to articulate where I stand on it.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I completely agree. And just my personal insight, because I didn't really, I was on the side of holding your head down, not really noticing. As long as it doesn't bother me, then I'm okay with it. But it wasn't until maybe like the start of the pandemic, or maybe a little bit before that, that I realized that this was going to, number one, be permanent, and number two, affect every aspect of society. When I started noticing things like the George Floyd incidents, because around that time in the States, we had something very similar happen here in Peru. We had something very similar happen in the countries neighboring us in Chile, where they also had a bunch of riots because of some supposed hero, some twisted hero, and we started learning more about it, and then realized that this is something that's true, it's real, it's happening, and it's not going to stop. I personally think it's not going to stop, because I think that what they want is the complete destruction of society as we see it. Because, for example, in my case, I'm from Peru, and in Peru we have a long history of terrorism, and so we ended supposedly the war on terrorism. Must have been like in the early 90s, mid 90s. We supposedly ended. And what we're seeing now in our recent elections is that supposedly the terrorists that we had defeated are back, and they're back stronger than ever. But they're not attacking us with weapons. They're not confronting us, combat wise. They're now attacking us through ideals. Now manifesting, they're squirming and squeezing in society through ideas, through the election polls, and in particular with universities. Most of their ideas are are uh, are flowing into classrooms and universities, and they are teaching our youth things that are completely against, like, um, we say that this guy attacked and bombed a building, but they'll paint it completely different, to where it's like, no, he wasn't bombing, he was defending his people, and then just painting things completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So it's this particular fight has been going on, with the Marxist ideology. And the spread of communism and socialism and they're literally trying to start a cultural revolution in the West, just like it happened in China, just like it happened in Russia and other places around South America. And
just one final thing. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just one final thing, because here the ideologies of terrorism here are all influenced by Maoism, Leninism, and Marxism. Like the typical things are here also. And so yeah, when I saw that, I was like, no, I'm all in. And I've gotten to the point where, like, I'm not subscribed to Netflix. I'm not subscribed to Disney. Anything Disney puts out, I'm not falling for it. I'm not watching anything that the mainstream is trying to push on us, because I know that through one way or another, they're trying to, like, put in their ideals.
They've been captured.
Exactly.
You're exactly right. This struggle has been going on. This particular, the sort of fight for freedom against authority is eternal, will never end. But this particular fight against whatever you want to call it, cultural Marxism, communism, so whatever it is, whatever face it takes, it's been raging now for 100 years. They're not giving up. It's not going. It's not going to go away. It might be pushed back, for a decade or so. It's going to resurge. So it's an ongoing thing, and it has to be fought against. People have been speaking out against this in the West for decades now, and it is still coming, and it will continue to come. So this is just the latest incarnation of that fight. And it's important that everyone continues with that. And there has to be a voice in each area where it's happening, standing up and speaking out against it. And that's what ComicsGate is in comic books.
Awesome. I definitely agree. And I'm sorry for the people in the chat. Everybody left. We read that already. And Shadow Punk is here. What's going on, Shadow Punk? Thank you very much for stopping by. And he asked a question. He says, how long in the end will it take to complete Pain of Death?
I wish I had an accurate answer for that.
5 years, 10 years?
No, absolutely not. I'm hoping to get the overwhelming majority of the colors done by the end of the year. I think that's totally feasible for me. I still have about 12 pages or so left to draw and finish. They're at various stages of completion. I'm a bit hesitant to put out a fixed estimate date because, I do work full time. So it's not as if I can just say, all right, I'll just, all month I'll be working 15 hours a day on it. It's just not possible for me. It's not on the cards. But I got the first book out within the year, and I have more of this book completed than the first book. So think about probably on that time scale. I'll be doing my best to get it shorter than that, but sort of working with that for the moment. I will give a better estimate at the start of 2024. I'll have a lot better idea of where I'm at there by that point.
Sweet. No, I was referring to like the whole Lucent story.
Oh, the whole thing?
5 or 10 years?
Oh, I've got no idea. What would be fantastic is eventually, with the channel and the campaigns that, I'll be able to take, even if I won't be able to go full time, maybe I will be able to. I don't know. I'll be able to spend a lot more time on the actual books, and then who knows? It'd be amazing to get one out a year. That would be incredible. I think that's sort of the gold standard. And then in that case, you can just count. If it's another 3 books, it shouldn't be too long. But it all depends on whether or not that's even possible. The world is changing very quickly. I don't know if it's the same over there, but here the cost of living is skyrocketing. So things are a little bit up in the air at the moment with how all that's going to work.
We're subject to the flux of the price of the dollar and the exchange here. So, for example, if the dollar is high, then things get expensive. If it's low, then it's a little bit more affordable. But it's usually that's usually our measuring tool there. And Timescale says you nailed it with the video from yesterday. File 13, what's going on, man? What's going on, Willie P? How you doing, Willie? And then Tosca says, one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it taught people how to use Zoom and other video chats. It brought people together in almost infinite ways. Yeah, me personally, I wouldn't be in CG. I wouldn't have known about CG if it wasn't for the pandemic, because we had to live at home, and then on Twitter.
I don't think I would have been able to build my channel without that old code.
It helped a lot. It
helped a lot. So there was I guess that was a silver lining and all that.
Yeah. Do you think because clearly we can see that the landscape for CG now versus 2021 is a lot different. I've heard you and others mention that back in the day, like 2 years ago, that you could just put out a book of anything and then people will buy it. Do you think that was because of the pandemic, that the people were locked in home?
Possibly. I think it actually goes back further than that. I think it's back to 2018. So 2018 is the big boom of ComicsGate, the big bang, I suppose. So there was sort of a proto CG taking place on YouTube before then, 2016, 2017, maybe even a little bit earlier. But it wasn't until a whole bunch of people decided, okay, well, this is an actual thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to band together. We're going to use our platforms on YouTube to push these crowdfunded books. And it coincided with a great moment of awareness for a lot of people about all this stuff that we were just talking about, the kind of woke invasion of comic books. So there were a lot of people looking at the time. And I think a lot of people back in those days really wanted to do something about it. They didn't know what. And then along comes Jawbreakers, along comes Cyberfrog, along comes the Doug to Naples worm book. I can't remember its name, but a whole bunch of others. And they saw crazy numbers. It was just a really exciting, crazy time. And you would get people coming in who, I don't know, they'd never made a book before, and making $80,000, $50,000. So almost sight unseen, which is pretty crazy to think about now that ever taking place. So I think there's just a lot of kind of fervor and energy, and people wanted to vote with their wallets. Since then, at least to the people who've stuck around, maybe they've gotten burnt on a couple of books. I think everyone who's been around here for a few years has gotten burnt on at least one book. But they've had, and as well, this stuff isn't cheap. This is independently created, published, and distributed stuff. It's not gonna, the economies of scale means we can't sell them for $10. And I don't think we should, because I think our stuff is better than a lot of what gets pumped out in the mainstream. But that means that people have over the years had to become a little more discerning with what they back. I think that's a good thing, though. I think that is the free market responding, correcting, and people are voting with their wallets. And more, really to the point now where it's almost everyone are just voting with, all right, how has this creator handled things in the past? What's the quality of the book? Am I interested in the story? I think that's the majority of why people back books now in 2023. And frankly, that's the best possible scenario to be in, because it creates a proper competitive artistic market.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm in that group also, because I remember when I first jumped on the scene and found out about CG, I got everything. Like, I got everything that I could see, like, get my hands on, and I wanted to see like what people were making. I was completely surprised, because when I came across CG at the same time, I was also coming back into drawing. So I hadn't been drawing or doing any kind of art or anything for years. And so when I came back, like, my biggest surprise was like, wait, people are making books, like they're making their own comic, like this is a thing, and people are actually buying this. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I mean, because it was like completely unfathomable for me back when I was reading comics in the '90s that a nobody, not to offend anybody out there, but like a nobody could just like draw a comic and then put it out. Like that was unheard of for me. When I came on Twitter and found out about this, I was completely surprised, and I backed everything. And I saw some really good books. I saw some disappointments. And so now I'm, a little bit more nitpicky about what I want. And yeah, as you say, I completely agree. It's all about the free market. Creators, I think, don't have it as easy. I think they have to work hard for it, as they should have. Always. And
well, some things are easier. So some things are easier and some things are harder. So back in the day, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they had it pretty hard in terms of distribution and actually knowing how to print books and like all that stuff. You really had to learn by yourself. There wasn't really, I guess you could go to conventions and ask people and stuff like that, but they certainly didn't have any technology to get it out to a wider audience. They had to go out and sell it by hand at conventions and stuff. But back then there was a crazy, thriving indie scene. Millions of people were still reading comic books and everything. So it was, it was this and that. But nowadays, it's never been easier to do this. The programs, the way, even if you're not a fantastic artist, you can use computer assisted things to help you out, or you can find an artist. I mean, just go onto Instagram, go onto Twitter, go onto Facebook. You'll find all these amazing artists, and maybe some of them will work for you. So all that stuff is easy. They've got social media, but the harder part is now you're competing against thousands of people, and it's so crowded. How do you stand out in the crowd? That's the hard part.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to say to read some of the comments that I missed. And Timescale says, Shadowpunk says, that's the Marxist playbook. Timescales, the George Floyd murder and others by cops and our protests did improve society here in the States, but there's still a long road ahead. I guess. I can't really say much to that because I haven't lived there in a long time. There's a certain Thori that's in the chat. I don't know if you want me to ignore.
Who? What?
There's a certain Thori that's in the chat.
Every time you say who it is, it just goes shh in my ear. Hal Sumo Thori. It's so funny. I put out that joke yesterday on Twitter, and almost everyone took it seriously. They thought I literally couldn't see his tweets, so that was funny.
Yeah, man. And he's in the chat. And he says, "Is Bancroft still conducting the poli-sci class from last night?" Yeah, it was a good course. I mean, I hadn't seen many people talk about it like that, but it was really good. And Shadowpoint says,
I hope people as well will go watch that documentary I shared, The Great Awakening. It puts everything in really clear, easy to digest, to understand it all.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out because those kinds of things really catch my fancy, and then I'll take a look at it, see what it's about. And Shadowpunk says, "Thanks. It's taken me about a year full time to finish my book." Yeah, it's definitely expensive. I'm learning firsthand, like from making my own stuff. It costs a lot. It takes a lot of time, and it's a lot of hard work. And but it's worth it at the end. Like when I saw my book finished, that's small. It's just 10 pages, but when I saw it, it was really nice, really, really good. And Timescale says, "Cost of living is crazy, crazy, crazy in California. It's everywhere. India just lost their tomatoes." I don't know what. I didn't know India had tomatoes. But Sumo says, "Justice for me." Yeah. No, Sumo. Here, you're very welcomed. You're not going to get ignored or anything. Nobody is going to gatekeep you. Yeah. And what's going on, Rick Sailors? Thank you very much for stopping by. Yeah, what's up,
Rick?
And Rick is actually the reason why. One of the reasons why I knew about you, because he was also in the chat with Sean and Joe, and then he was like the link for you and them, and then I
Yeah,
caught on to
Rick's
some of
put
that.
me onto a lot of really cool creators. He has his
Yeah,
eye on the scene in a way that a lot of people don't.
yeah,
Introduced me to a lot of cool artists out there.
yeah. So Rick is the glue that sticks that keeps us all together.
Exactly.
And yeah. So how many pages do you do? Do you finish or do you get done in a day or a week, or how what's
I
your
don't really work like that, so I have no idea.
yeah,
I work really strangely. I work in
okay,
batches. I work in things. So, I might just decide, all right, today I'm just going to draw hands. So I'll just go through my book drawing hands on different pages and stuff. I find that's the way I get faster because it really makes you kind of work a bit more like a production line. At the moment, I'm just doing the highlights in coloring, and I'm just jumping
yeah,
from panel to panel, just doing the highlights, not finishing them up or anything, just sort of drawing pens, like brushing them out. So I couldn't say. I have done that before where I said I'm going to sit down and draw a page today, and I did that. It was fine. It was possible. I had all day to do it. So
in
um,
order in order for you to do that, wouldn't you have to have like 10, 20 pages already done for you to go and draw the hands?
yeah, but that's sort of what I do. That's what
Oh,
I kind of
interesting.
have. Like I'll do. All right, today I'm just going to be, laying out characters and stuff like that, or backgrounds, and I don't know. It's just how it works best for me. I told that to Rini. She thought I was a crazy person, but everyone has their own methods, and I found, to me, that's the fastest way I can do the work,
Yeah,
and have it still maintain quality.
yeah,
Actually, I find that I get better. If I do a day where I draw 50 sets of hands, by
yeah,
the 50th hand, they're looking amazing.
yeah.
So actually it works out. Whereas if I'm stopping and starting and just drawing an entire character or different characters, all it really kind of it throws me. I get in the zone when I'm just all right. I'm just drawing Ella's hair today, and I really do get in the zone. I get the swing of things, and it just starts coming out really quickly. So that's the way I work.
Nice. Yeah. Normally my innate approach to doing a comic is to go page by page by page by page. But I've
Mm-hmm.
done work for an anthology one time, and the guy when I worked with that person told me to thumbnail everything, and
Mm-hmm.
pencil everything, and then ink everything, and that like threw like a big curveball at me because I was like, that's not how I work. I just do the page and then I go to the next page. But I was able to see the benefit to that because if there's anything that you want to tweak later on, or if there's like something that you missed on the first page, you can go back and tweak it. So I think that those batches in scenes, I think, is also a good way to. It's beneficial in its own right. So
Yeah, I sort of, when I started this, I kind of wanted to do it like how does everyone else do it? And then I just realized that you got to do it how works best for you.
yeah,
And yeah, I think I'm getting pretty good at streamlining things. And then I noticed, wow,
yeah,
I've really done a fair amount of work. Just and the good thing about it as well is when you do it my way in bits here and there, you start to get, oh, I'm going to have 8 pages finished over the next couple of days, all in
yeah,
one batch. And that feels good when that finally happens.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I'm going to highlight this like it's nobody's business. He says, Rick Saylor says, Ellie has been on fire. Keep your eyeballs on him. Thank you very much, Rick. Thanks, man. I appreciate the support. And Tom Steele says, just follow Elliot. Yeah, thank you very much. Send him a DM. Very interesting person. Thank you, Tom Steele. I think you are very interesting also. And Sumo says, hand number 1, not so good.
And that's where you decide, all right, I'll draw these hands as kind of in the background, little hands, where it doesn't really matter if they're not perfect.
Yeah,
And then
that
you
works.
build up to the more prominent hands. I know how to do it, Sumo.
And Tosca says, gotta go make dinner. Peace out from San Francisco. Yeah, take care, man. Thank you very much for stopping by. Cheers to you also. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Awesome stuff, man. So you have your own way of doing the art. Awesome stuff. And what's been your biggest challenge making the book? What's like the most difficult thing? Like maybe like managing time with family or coloring. What has been the biggest challenge? Marketing, press run. Is this is like, for example, today you got like 4 streams, I think. Four streams.
Yeah, each day is a different challenge. So today
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of streaming. Other days it's just sort of, sitting your butt down in the chair and getting the work done that you need to do that day. It's all a challenge. It's one giant challenge. It's a never-ending challenge. The biggest challenge is getting up every day and doing it again, and knowing that you're just one step further in this giant, seemingly never-ending climb up this mountain. But you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you don't really see the finish line, at the time you're doing it. You just keep going, and whatever you need to do that day to step forward, you just do it. Because some days you just, I don't know, you might not feel like it, or you might be tired, but every day I start my day with a little thing that I say to myself, like, get up, because if you don't get up, you won't have a comic. It won't get done. So, that's what I do. And it includes everything. That includes the YouTube channel. It includes the art. It includes the writing. It includes the world building and everything.
Nice. And what can you say to the benefit of having an editor? Because you mentioned that there, or you said that there's a change from the raw edition of the uncut edition of Waking Dream, and then once Joe Fulton got his hands on it, there was changes that you had to. And speaking of which, is he okay? I haven't seen him on the show in a while. Is he doing?
Joe's fine. Joe's actually on vacation at the moment.
Okay.
A much needed vacation. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been going through probably some of the worst couple of years that you could imagine people going through, and he'd already been coming off medical issues in his immediate family, even before I met him. So this is, it's been a very interesting 3 or 4 years in the Fulton family, but he's still kicking along. Obviously he's had to withdraw from sort of public life, but he's very much still involved in the book. And I need him there, because this is such a story where I have to be 100% confident that what I'm putting on the page is what the reader needs. And it's really difficult to do that if you're the one writing the story, because everything you see is through this lens. You have this God's view of the entire story, whereas the reader doesn't have that. They only have what you give them, and that's where it's integral, especially in a story like this, to have an editor who can step back and view it as a reader. So, without that, it would have been so much more stressful. On top of that, he'll point out to me, hey, look, do you want to have another crack at that arm or that leg or that face? Or, like, if you think, he says, if you're happy with it, go for it. But, maybe have another look at that. And I'll look at it and say, oh, yeah, I could do that better. Or I think that's fine. That sort of stuff. So, he makes the actual physical art better as well by kind of pulling me up and say, I think you can do this part better, that sort of stuff too.
Nice. How do you go shopping for an editor? Like, I mean, for example, you look for an artist, you go to Instagram, ArtStation, take a look at the art. If you like it, you get in contact with them. But how does that apply to getting an editor? What advice would you?
I don't actually know. I mean, Joe found me. I was hanging out on a stream with Art T Bear, and Joe was there, and we just became fast friends. And we hung out for he was hanging on my show. I was like, I really like this guy. You should become a regular on my show. And that happened. And then he was like, I do this and that. I was like, hey, I'd be willing to take a look at your book for you. I'm sure, okay. And it just sort of evolved naturally. I didn't go shopping for one. Originally, I wasn't going to have an editor, which is crazy now that I think about it. But I think there are editors out there sort of advertising their bona fides, however you pronounce that.
Yeah, definitely. Because that was like my question always. Like, your artist, you can see an artist, the quality of the artist by taking a look at the art. But most of the times, like in the indie scene, you say that he's the person says, no, I'm a writer, I'm an editor, I write, I edit, but how do you know if it's any good or not if you don't have any like a finished product, like or a comic or a script or a screenplay or something to read. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
it's
mean
really
that is
difficult.
an issue. That is an issue with the indies because
Yeah,
probably professional editors are already working professionally in the field,
yeah,
and they might not have time for you. So it is a bit of a tricky thing. You just find someone that you can trust who is talking to you
yeah,
honestly, who will just tell you. I mean, Jay doesn't pull any punches.
yeah,
He goes on my pages with a big red pen and just starts circling things. It's like this is not
yeah,
good.
yeah,
So you got to have that. You're looking for honesty. You're not looking for anyone to blow any smoke up your butt. And Joe definitely doesn't do that
yeah,
for me. I was whenever I was like, "What do you think?" It's like, "Oh, it's good. I liked it." That he never really just, "Oh, that's amazing." Yeah, because he's got to be in the editor role.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and well, I mean, now also with like how far along we've come. We've seen, for example, other books that have been put out, and we see, for example, prominent people like Von Kloss, like
Mhm.
Kimosabi. I had another name in my head, but there's more people now. Mark Polton, for example, there's more people that what their work is like, what they write like. In your case, also,
Yep.
no, I consider you a very well, very good writer. Yeah, the work is really good, um, and yeah, so that I see, for example, like some of the books that I back, like yeah, you can see the difference where there has been an editor here and not in the other one because not just the grammar,
Mhm.
but just things story wise, like there's the
Well, and a lot of the
climax, the
times,
resolution.
you're getting someone's very first attempt at writing. I
Yeah,
mean, if I
yeah,
could
yeah,
imagine putting my very first attempt at writing out into the world to see, I mean, it would be an absolute disaster. I wrote hundreds of thousands of words
yeah, yeah.
in this story that will never see the light of day.
Mm,
Because that was just me learning how to write, just how you learn how to draw or paint
mm,
or whatever. You learn a sport, you suck at the start. So I couldn't imagine putting out my very first attempts at writing. People
yeah,
do, with varying, differing, degrees of success. But yeah, I think we're definitely seeing people who put in the work, whether it's in writing, world building, art, or whatever. People who put in the years of, learning their craft and honing it, they definitely, seem to have an advantage out there in terms of word of mouth and people
yeah.
interested in their book and stuff like that.
Sweet, awesome. And yeah, just in case anybody's curious, what I have shown here on the screen, I think it's here. Yeah, what I have here is Michael's web page, the lucidcomic.com. The link is in the description below, so you can click on it and back the book today. You can get yeah, you can get all of these all of the books. I'm showing this in Peruvian currency, sorry, but
Oh, let's have a
yeah,
look. I want to see how much it is.
yeah, here's 93 soles. This is the
Yeah.
soft cover, then 148 for the hard cover, and one sol is no, I'm sorry, $1 is equivalent to like three soles,
Okay. All right.
maybe four, 3 to 4 soles, 3 to 4 soles because it varies. Yeah, so 148, so 110. So you can see here, folks, for 93 soles what you can buy, and and yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so please join the mailing list. Get in on this. It's critically acclaimed, in my opinion. Like it's really really good. Not just great art, as you can see here, but it's a really good story. It's mysterious in many ways, and yeah, and you'll have a lot of questions at the end of the first book. But hopefully, in the
Hmm.
second book, we get some answers. And we get
Yeah,
some
yeah. The
answers.
first book is very much just an introduction to the who's who.
Yeah,
I really throw you down there in the middle of it, and I don't give you much to work with.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is all there. Once you read the second book, you can go back and read the first book again, and a lot more of it is going to make sense. Again, I'm not going to hold your hand in the second book either.
Yeah,
There, you know, but I want you intrigued. But I also want you enjoying the mystery, because it's always the case that the journey, the mystery, is a lot of the time a lot more fun than the destination. Now, the destination has to be there. There has to be that satisfying moment at the end, but I want you to have the most possible enjoyment out of it along the way. And part of that is the reader coming up with their own theories as to what is exactly going on here. Who are the Lucent? How does it all work? Well, how are these seemingly completely disparate people in different times connected? All that sort of
exactly.
fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember hearing Adam Lawson mention that, because I asked him on a stream one time, like, how do you approach like giving the reader backstory? And he said exactly as what you're doing. Like, do it in such a way that the reader is discovering as they go along. Like, don't just info drop, but just like have it have things become useful and needed as it is useful and needed in the story. Like exactly how you're doing. You just learn a little bit by little bit, and then I like how you keep the reader intrigued, because we want to know more of what's happening. Like, for example, I'm still like not 100% sure what her powers are. Like, I'm assuming she can force, like something like a force push type thing. But I'm more than that. Like, I don't know, can she manipulate elements? Because we've seen her with lightning and water, and so actually, can you tell us what her powers are like, or is that?
Well, what you saw there, so I mean that is I guess you could kind of label that as sort of, these are kind of elemental powers that are being shown here. She does she's able to push back those guys and lift them up. That suggests that there's some connection there to the air. She's manipulating. The other guy we see at the end of the book, he's like he has some sort of fiery thing going on. There's the guy at the start of the book, he's got water. So you can kind of see where this is headed a little bit. But that's really only one side of the kind of the powers that exist in this mysterious world of the Lucent. We're going to learn a little bit more about that in the upcoming books. But I like that people don't really fully know, because she doesn't know. And what I want to do is the story is supposed to, the way it's structured, the story is one step ahead of the reader. So as you move forward, then the story moves forward. So you're just always just out of grasp, but then you're like, oh, but then you move another step, and then the story moves another step. You're like, oh, you're constantly trying to grab it. Until it reaches its climax, and that's sort of how it's structured there.
Definitely, I get that, definitely, because it's like I just figured this out, but then now this other question, it makes sense.
But then there are these rings that I'm dropping in. She receives a ring. The guy at the start in the cave, he has a special ring. How does this all work? Stick with me, and you'll find out. I promise.
Sweet. And we got Benjamin also in the chat. What's going on, man? It's like, what's the good word, fellow nerds? What's going on,
making books and selling books and having a good old time on the internet.
And speaking of that, like, that was one of my challenges. Were like, because I recently did fan art, because I was thinking, like, I haven't seen much fan art of Ella, and like I saw that Oren did a piece, and I was like, I'm going to do a piece of Ella, because I haven't seen much of her. And so I did a piece, and I was like, what power does she have? How can I show her with the power? So I did like a force win thing.
What I'm going to do is, so the 50K stretch goal is a fan art contest. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to actually make some character sheets or something, that and actually list, who has been observed doing what. And that's how it's going to have to be at the moment. To this point, who has been seen utilizing what powers. And that way I can list them there. And that would also include, I mean, even this. I've shown this. Here's Ella floating. We've seen her floating in dreams before, so I'll have to include that. So if you want to draw Ella floating, it's there. It's canon. Actually, she's floating here as well with some lightning. So there you go.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. Like, should I draw her like with lightning? Should I draw her with water? Because she was in that water scene, like manipulating
Yep.
water, lightning. But it's all part of the fun because it's really good to see how people interpret that. Because
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I mean, Ella doesn't understand yet. So that's why the reader doesn't understand yet. And as she learns more, that's how you'll learn more. Everyone around her seems to know everything, and they seem highly reticent to tell her much. There's a good
yeah,
reason for that. This is a dangerous, high stakes world that she's falling into. And some people have her best interests at heart. Others want to take advantage of her abilities. So yeah, that's the tightrope she's going to have to walk going forward in the
sweet.
story.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, so you got that, and then also tell us about your excitement of going to the U.S. You're going to be at Tampa Bay Con shortly.
Yeah, it's
You
how
have
long is that? Is it 2
you have
weeks?
I think so. Yeah, about 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, and you got
Yes, it is.
merch.
It's 2 weeks to the day.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
So
Got
how did
my
that come about?
well, originally I thought it was all gonna happen at another convention earlier on. I'm glad that didn't happen because I don't know if I would have been able to afford it. But Tampa Bay Comic Con, I think Patrick organized it as to like a whole bunch of people should go to that, and it just sort of snowballed from there. A whole bunch of people said, "Yeah, I'll
Sweet.
come down." And the cool thing about it as well, Camel Moon, who I have been streaming with for years now, he lives in Jacksonville, so it just seemed like a really
Oh,
good way to go over and hang out with him, and then come down to Tampa and meet people. It's been a long time coming. I mean, I've been doing this YouTube thing now for 3 years, doing involved in CG. I want to meet people.
yeah.
That's the one thing I've really been missing. I've been doing all of this from inside this cottage. So it's
Yeah,
going to be really fun. I've printed up, actually I'm about to go pick them up after the stream. I've
sweet.
printed up a whole bunch of exclusive limited run t-shirts in this kind of funky, almost looks blacklight style colors.
Nice.
So I'll be bringing them over to sell, and if I don't sell out with them, I'll just put them up on the campaign
Nice.
afterwards. I'll
Yeah,
be
that
signing
sounds
some
awesome.
books. It's gonna be a blast. There's gonna be dinners. There's gonna be drinks.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're in the area, come and say hello.
Yeah, me, no, the people in the chat because I'm gonna be, I'm way out of the radar. But yeah, it'd be nice because I see a bunch of people get together at cons in where is it? I think it was Chicago, and then
Well, I'm even much further away than you are, Elliot. But
yeah,
thankfully,
that is true. Yeah,
thankfully, it was destiny that I did that
yeah.
Kickstarter and raised almost the exact amount of money that I needed for a ticket to get over there.
Sweet.
So I was like, all right, that was destiny, and that way, that was the whole thing that was causing me not to do it. It's not that I didn't want to spend the money. It's like, I got kids to feed. I didn't have the money, but
Exactly,
the Kickstarter made it
it
possible.
helps
So that
out.
was cool.
Sweet. And yeah, no, I'm happy for you, excited for the people that are going to show up because we need that camaraderie, that fellowship type thing. People hanging out because it is real.
Definitely.
It's not just
That's the
people on
sort
the
of
street.
I think that's
Yeah.
the next step
Yeah,
and people are starting to do it. I've seen obviously Graham Nolan's big on it. Phil Diaz, he's always getting out to
yeah,
conventions. Ethan just did it the other week.
yeah. I saw that. That was
I,
dope. Yeah, that was really cool.
I think this is the sort of the next step to doing what we were talking about earlier, is in
Yeah,
getting out there and showing people that this is not just it's not what you've heard it is. It's not some
yeah,
den of weird, crazy people. It's just normal people who love comics, who want comics to be normal, and tell good, entertaining, escapist stories. Let's all meet together and show everyone that we're just normal people who like to hang out and have a drink and chill out.
Sweet. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that, and I'm on board with that. And yeah, Timescale says, "Welcome, making dinner here, but listening in. Great interviewer and great interviewee." Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Timescales. Yeah, Benjamin Hale. Yeah, and Timescale says, "Film it, Bancroft in America."
There will be streaming. There will be filming.
Sweet.
It'll be interesting to say the least. I'm probably gonna have to take my microphone over there because Camel and I are we're gonna do a joint stream together, in the
Ah,
same
nice.
room, which will be really fun.
Sweet. Yeah, nice. Like on location type thing, so everybody can
Exactly,
tune in and see,
exactly.
yeah, what kind of shenanigans you guys get into, and and then Paul's here. What's going on, Paul? Great,
Hey,
great to see
Paul.
you. Thank you very much for stopping in. Says Tomsko says Bancroft, if you can make it to California, let me know and we will show you around.
That might have to be next
This is
time.
my
This one's going
Bancroft.
to be a bit of a whirlwind tour. I'll be there a
Yeah,
week. The most of the time, I'll be staying with my friend, and then there's the convention. So I will be hopping through places. I do layovers in San Francisco, Chicago, and Houston. But I don't know if I'll actually be able to leave the airport. I think you got to go through customs to do that. And I
yeah,
don't want to go out of customs and come back in, and
yeah,
it could be a
yeah.
whole thing.
No, yeah, yeah. Just stay in the immediate vicinity because
Yeah, exactly. I don't
too
want to.
much trouble and hassle. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Good stuff, man. And, yeah. So that I think that's we're at way past the hour, which I'm very sorry. My bad. I
Oh, that's
didn't take
fine.
up the
No,
time.
all good.
And yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the people in the chat, or any last final messages? Any
Thank
advice
you
for
everyone who's
creators?
backed. It's been a blast. It's going so crazy. Also, I'll be jumping over right after this onto another show called Technically Mexican. Just some guys who just found me on YouTube who were like, "Hey, I like what you're doing." So this is kind of like a whirlwind day of streaming for me today.
Yes, sweet.
But yeah. Otherwise, other than that, find me over on Michael Bancroft on YouTube and at the Lucent Comic on Twitter.
Yeah, and you'll be back on the show tomorrow, I think.
On which show?
You'll
On
be
my
back
show.
doing your show tomorrow, I
Yes.
think. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so tomorrow I've got Joe Catapano coming on. He's going to show us what he's up to on Star Circuit 2.
Yeah,
And
I
we're
think
also
he's
going to
got
check
a.
out, yeah, he's got a sign up there. He's starting. And we're also going to check out Judex and Type 1 from Sean.
Yeah.
Judex is Michael Oden and Neff, and Type 1 is from Sean Arendt. They will be launching the following 2 days in a row. So, yeah, we're going to check out their campaigns and get the hype train started.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, speaking of Type 1, for those who don't know, I'm going to have Sean on the show next week in the morning, or in the morning here in Peru, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have Sean Arendt. He's going to be my guest for next week, and we're going to talk about Type 1. And yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. That comic's been in the making for a good minute also, and I'm happy that he's finally getting it out despite all of the family troubles that he's been having. So good stuff. Good to see him bounce back and come back with the book. And Sumo says, "Cheers, Elliot and Michael. Great stream." And yeah, so
Thanks, Noah.
that's pretty. That'll be it for this show, everyone. So please don't forget the Lucent. The link is in the description, so be sure to back it twice, 3 times, 4 times, as many times as possible. And also,
You can because you just type in free shipping, and yeah, you can just add to your order.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely get in on that. Get in on that for sure. And actually, before we leave, I almost forgot about what I'm doing. um, I made a comic also. It's not anywhere near as good as the Lucent, but it is a start. My comic is called Ominus, which is the name of the show, the Ominus Morning Show, and I have recently finished a short 10-page preview of sorts, which includes the two characters that are in my story, going head to head, and I have a trailer for it. If Michael, if you don't mind, if I show that off, and it is currently available right now in digital form, but I'm going to do it like Sean did Type 1, just strictly through the DMs. And so if you are interested, then please hit me up in the DMs and I will shoot you the PDF file. And but yes, without further ado, just one quick minute, I'll show you guys the trailer so you can see it, and then yeah, that'll be it. So just take a look.
Nice.
That was it.
Looks
And
great.
so yeah,
man. It looks really good.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. So yeah, that's the story of this character. This is my main character. His name is Zadok, and he's fighting this character. So you get to see what they get into, what the fight is like. The comic is done. All you got to do is just hit me up in the DMs. It's short. It's really short. It's only 10 pages, but it's a nice introduction, I think, into what I'm looking to create for myself. And so yeah, so you can do that. Just hit me up in the DMs. Also, sub to the channel. Hit the like button, and please go back the Lucent. The link is in the description below. And then yeah, that'll be it for today. And I will see you guys next week. Next week, it will be in the morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be talking with Sean Arendt. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I will see you guys later. Take care.